So, Math8A students, we have been talking in Chapter 7 about exponents, and now we're going to be talking about a specific kind of exponent, a rational exponent. Now, I want you to remember, when we talk about the word rational in math, we're talking about things that have to do with ratios. Okay, so we're talking about exponents that are like ratios, aka this video is about fraction exponents. Fraction exponents. And we've already talked about positive exponents, negative exponents, even zero exponents. Now we're going to look at, can you have a fraction exponent? And the answer is yes. But what does it mean? That's the question. What is x to the 1/2 power? Or something else to the 1/2 power, or to the 1/8 power, to the 3/4 power? Can you even do that? Yes, you can. And in order to help us explore what the heck a rational exponent means, or a fraction exponent means, I want to talk about, for a second, just the number 1/2 in the first place. Okay, the number 1/2. The number 1/2 is the inverse of what? What's the inverse of 1/2? Well, it would be 2/1 instead of 1/2. So 1/2 is the inverse of 2. 1/2 is the inverse of 2, okay? That might help us figure out what x to the 1/2 means, because it's the inverse of if the exponent was a 2. X to the 1/2 is the inverse of x squared. So I guess we have to ask ourselves the question, what is the inverse of squaring? And I think you probably know the answer to that question. What's the inverse of squaring something? Well, it is unsquaring. Well, I call it unsquaring. Most people call that a square root. So what does x to the 1/2 mean? It means we're unsquaring the x. We're doing the inverse of squaring the x. We are square rooting the x. All right, and at this point in the video, this is really the big idea. And if that makes sense to you, probably the rest of everything that we do will fall into place nicely. The idea is, if you have something to a fractional power, we're talking about a root, okay? Fraction exponents mean roots, okay? When I say roots, I mean square roots, or there are other kind of roots as well. So what would x to the 1/3 power be? It would be not the square root, it would be the cube root of x. And hopefully you know that there is such a thing as a cube root. It means uncubing something. All right, so now let's do this with some numbers. So let's say I asked you, number 1, do 25 to the 1/2 power. Okay, what does the fraction exponent mean? It means we're going to do the inverse, or kind of the opposite. We're going to unsquare the 25. So this means we're going to square root the 25. In other words, 25 to the 1/2 power is simply 5. Okay, not too bad. I think I can get behind that. Let's just kick it up just a slight notch. What if I said, what is 27 to the 1/3 power? Okay, now we're not going to unsquare it. We're going to uncube it. In other words, what cubed makes 27? Well, 27 happens to be 9 times 3, which is 3 times 3 times 3. And so, what is 27 to the 1/3? It is 3, because 27 to the 1/3 means we are cube rooting that 27, or uncubing it. All right, so this is what we are doing when we do rational exponents or fraction exponents. We're really just doing roots. We're really just doing roots. Could be a square root, could be a cube root, and it could even be a 4th root or a 5th root or a 10th root, right? You're unpowering something, right? Unsquaring, uncubing, etc., etc. All right, the only thing that's going to make this get a little bit more complicated is, A, if the numbers get a little bit more complicated and they're a little bit less familiar, or B, if, you have a fraction that doesn't have a 1 on top. So what if I said, what is x to the 3/4 power? Uh-oh. Well, the 3/4 power is a root, and just like this 2 told us that it was a square root, and this 3 told us that it was a cube root, this 4 does tell us that it is a 4th root, but this time it's not the 4th root of x. This 3 means it's the 4th root of x cubed. Okay. So if that doesn't make sense right off the bat, let me just kind of demonstrate that 3/4 is 3 times 1/4. And so basically we could consider this to be like x cubed to the 1/4 power, because 3 times 1/4 would be 3/4. And so it's x cubed, but getting 4th rooted. So you can have fractions that have non-1s on the top. You can have numbers on the top, numbers on the bottom. Basically, the number on the top is an exponent of that thing, right? You are cubing that thing, or squaring, or fifthing, or whatever that number is, okay? And then the number on the bottom tells you what kind of root you are doing to that thing. Okay, so then now let's do this with a number. Let's do this with a number and see if we can apply a rational exponent to a number. So our third little example problem is, oh boy, I got to think of something here. Got to think of a good problem for you. How about, what if I said, what is 10 to the 2/3 power? 10 to the 2/3 power. Okay, so think about this. Think about this. We are going to square the 10, but then we're going to cube root that. So what do you get when you square a 10? 100. And then we're going to cube root that. So 10 to the 2/3 is whatever the cube root of 100 is, and I don't know what the cube root of 100 is, but you could put that into your calculator and you could get an answer for that if you know how to use a calculator to find cube roots. But the point is, we want to understand what to do with the 2 and what to do with the 3. All right, the last thing that you're going to want to know how to do on this section where we're dealing with rational exponents is we're going to want to be able to rewrite some things. So let's say, for instance, I asked you, what is a way to rewrite the square root of 14? Well, we could rewrite that as 14 to the 1/2 power. Okay, simple enough. That's not too bad. What if I said rewrite 31y to the 1/2? Now be careful on this one. There is a square root happening here, but that square root is only happening to the y. So it would be 31 times the square root of y. The 31 would not be getting square rooted in this situation. When would you have it end up like this, with the 31 getting square rooted with the y? Only if you had a 31y to the 1/2 with parentheses around it, like that. All right, that's basically everything you need to know about rational exponents, aka fractional exponents, aka roots. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in class.